So, is Japan's industrial engine speeding up, or is it hitting the brakes? Well, the latest official numbers for December 2025 are in, and wow, they tell a fascinating story of a sector that's really caught in a tug-of-war. Let's dive right in.
Hello, this is Japanese Economic Review Channel. Today, we're going to break down the official industrial production data for December 2025. We'll get into what factories are actually making, what they're shipping out, and what it all means for the Japanese economy as we kick off the new year.
You know, the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry really just hit the nail on the head. Their assessment was, overall production is moving back and forth. And that single phrase is absolutely key. It paints a picture of an economy in limbo, where for every step forward in one area, there's a step back in another. That's pretty much the story of December.
Okay, so let's get to the core numbers. What does this back and forth picture actually look like? We're going to break down the three key metrics that really give us a health check on Japan's industrial heartland.
So these are our three big indicators. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Production is what's being made, shipments are what's actually being sold and sent out, and inventories are, well, what's left over. The balance between these three tells us pretty much everything we need to know.
All right, let's start with production and shipments. This is really where the action is. It's the stuff rolling off the assembly line versus what's actually heading out the factory doors. And in December, these two were telling kind of different stories.
So here it is, the headline number for production, a tiny, tiny drop of just 0.1%. Now, on the surface, that looks completely flat, right? But, and this is a big but, that number is actually hiding a whole lot of turbulence underneath.
And here is that turbulence I was just talking about. This is the tug-of-war in action. I mean, look on the left. You've got strong gains in big sectors like automotive, but then you look to the right and those gains were almost completely canceled out by big drops in things like production machinery and chemicals. It's a perfect stalemate.
Now let's talk shipments, because here the story isn't a stalemate at all. It's a clear step backward. Shipments actually fell 1.7%. What this means is, even though factories kept production pretty much steady, they were having a harder time actually moving those goods.
So where did this drop really come from? Well, the biggest culprits were production machinery and, again, automotive. Even a pretty solid performance from electronic parts just wasn't enough to stop the slide. This really points to a bit of a softening in demand for some of Japan's most important industries.
Okay, so this brings us to the next piece of the puzzle, inventories. Because if production is flat but shipments are down, all those unsold goods have to go somewhere, right? A buildup of stock like this can be a really important sign of what's to come. If companies feel like they have too much stuff on hand, they might cut production later.
And there you have it, the result. Inventories went up by 1%. It's the logical next chapter in our story. When you're making more than you're shipping, things are going to start piling up in the warehouse.
And this table shows us exactly where those stockpiles are growing. The biggest increases? Automotive and electronics. Now, this is a bit of a warning sign. When inventories swell up like this, companies often start thinking, maybe we should scale back production a bit.
So December was basically a story of stagnation. But is that holding pattern going to continue? Well, the report also gives us a forecast for the next 2 months, and it looks like things are about to get a whole lot less stable.
So, the big question is, where is the industrial sector actually headed in early 2026? Is this back and forth thing going to keep going, or are we about to see a real change in direction? The forecast has a very surprising answer.
Okay, get ready for a roller coaster. The forecast for January is a massive, and I mean massive, 9.3% surge in production. But hold on, because right after that, they're projecting a 4.3% drop in February. So stagnation is over. Welcome to extreme volatility.
So what on earth is behind this wild swing? Well, and this is the really interesting part, it's the same key sectors driving both the up and the down. Transport equipment, so think automotive, is expected to power that January surge, but then it's also expected to lead the decline in February. This just tells you how uncertain the road ahead is for these core industries. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, Japan's industrial sector ended 2025 pretty much in a holding pattern, a real tug-of-war with no clear winner. But that fragile balance, it is not expected to last. The forecast points to a period of some major ups and downs, leaving the short-term outlook really uncertain. It looks like we're moving from a standstill to a seesaw.
Thank you for watching the Japanese Economic Review. We look forward to having you with us again.